Mike Beer, race number 11 at Saratoga on Belmont Stakes Saturday. We're creeping closer to the third jewel in racing's Triple Crown. Here's the Manhattan. It's $1 million race. Let's take a look at this field. It's a big field of good turf horses going a mile and 3/16. Mike, you've got some talented European trained entrants, but you also have Program Trading, who right now might be, along with Master of the Seas, they're probably the two best turf horses in North America.
Yeah, he's right there for sure. I mean, I think you have to like the way that he came off the layoff last time. He beat several of these horses on Derby Day, Dan. In some ways, I thought he got the best trip in the race. He still really ran, though.
Well, he gets those kind of trips because he's a very tactical horse. If the pace is fast, he'll settle back and make one run. If the pace is more moderate, like it was last time out, he'll tuck in just behind. It's a great asset to have. But when we talk about speed, strong qualities, the speed of this race, we throw up our time for him US pace projector. That's what he knows. That's what worked for him last time out on dirt. He's equally as good, if not better, on turf.
Yeah, he's probably a better turf horse, although on either surface, I think it's fair to question whether you're going to project strong quality to be winning Grade 1 races on either of those surfaces. I like him. I think he can make the lead in here. I do think he's in very tough.
Start things off with I'm Very Busy, another one trained by Chad Brown, who started off this season with 2 triple-digit buyer performances, big close in the Pegasus World Cup turf behind Warm Heart, who saved all the ground with a beautiful Ryan Moore ride. And then in the Munis, he dominated that field, a weaker group over a wet turf course. He might get a wet turf course here. What happened in the Turf Classic? He seemed a little crabby before they went into the gate, and then he didn't fire at all.
Yeah, I didn't like his race last time, and it felt like, a really important start for him, too, in another Grade 1 race there, Dan. I loved the ride that Irad gave him. I thought he had him in a perfect position when that field came into the stretch, and I'm Very Busy just didn't really fire a good shot. If he gets back to one of those races 2-3 back, I guess he can win here. I'm starting to question how good he actually is.
I wonder if the 2 Ohana Honor is slightly better at slightly longer distances. He seemed to find himself when stretched out to 1.5 miles in a second level allowance at Keeneland. Then he ran in the Man of War last time out, and that was a race where the race was run to suit him. The race pace was fast. He came with the close to be second. You could argue Nation's Pride ran just as well being on that pace.
Yeah, he was closer to the pace for sure. Listen, I'm not knocking Ohana Honor. I think he is one of those typical shug horses. He showed potential early on, and now he's just going to continue to get better as time goes on. The distance, whether it's longer or shorter than this, I don't think it really matters. So I don't think he's a horse that, or at least I don't look at him and say the 1.5 miles and 1.3 miles is better for this horse. I just think he's in good form now and he's getting better.
Is the longer distance better for Kurtz, the number 3, a horse that scored the Pan American in his North American debut for Mr. Clement and Rosario at 1.5 miles, and then last time out in the Man of War, I don't know what happened. Again, crabby before the start, never fired.
Yeah, it just didn't really. They had a good pace in front of him too there, and he just never really was able to work his way into contention there. Just didn't do anything. I was of the opinion going into the Man of War, though, Dan, that even cutting back a furlong for that race was a little bit too much. I think he wants to go longer. Now he's got to cut back again.
Here's strong quality. The speed for Mark Cassie wired him on dirt last time out in the restricted Knicks Go. 2 starts back, he was part of that very fast pace in the Muniz that set things up for I'm Very Busy. When he gets to the lead and he's able to back down the fractions, he's okay. 1 mile and 3/16 might be pushing it just a bit.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, and that's not even one that I necessarily consider too strongly. But the distance comes into question here. I think he will make the lead. I'm not convinced that he's good enough.
Here's Program Trading, one of the horses to beat in this race, off 2 Grade 1 wins. The Hollywood Derby looked good in his final start as a 3-year-old, and the Turf Classic. I love the ride Pratt gave him because he found the pocket, basically going past the stands the first time. Once he was able to get going in the stretch, he was very game to take down Naval Power as a good horse.
He was really good in that race. He did, again, he had one of the better trips in the race, and I thought that there was some trouble behind him in there. It doesn't really take away from what he did in there or what he's done overall. I mean, there's nothing but good races on this horse's page, and he gets good trips every time.
Fascinating European entrant in here is the number 6, Alrifo, a race with cheek pieces on for Joseph O'Brien. This was a good 2-year-old. I loved the way he won the national stakes as a 2-year-old. He just settled off the pace, got to the outside, and wore those horses down. Only had a sort of abbreviated campaign last year at 3. They only ran him twice, but his first start this year was in the Prix Gannet. Good, strong Group 1 race. The 3rd place finisher came back to run 3rd in a Group 1. 5th place finisher, 2nd in a Group 1. 7th place finisher, 3rd in a Group 1. He was in with a chance turning for home. He fought on in between horses first off the layoff. Trust me, he fits with these horses.
He really does. That was a wide open race last time. Like, everybody had a shot at it, and he was right there in the mix, and he couldn't quite get it done, but it was a really good field, and he was right there at the end. I'm with you. He was he was really impressive as a 2-year-old. You just sort of felt like he had all the talent in the world. Only 2 starts last year, second both times. The final one of those, though, Dan, he's beaten less than a length by Ace Impact, undefeated ARC winner. If he runs that kind of a race against this kind of a field, look out.
Might be the 3rd choice in this race as well, or even more. Nation's Pride, the 7, goes out for Appleby and Dettori. Appleby also has Measured Time in here. A horse that's proven at Saratoga, won the Saratoga Derby when he had a very good campaign in 2022. Won the Canadian International, a race he was supposed to win at 2-5 last year. He's had 2 runs this year. The race in Bahrain, I'm really not going to hold that against him. Last time out in the Man of War, he chased a quick pace. A good horse beat him. I think he's going to be more patiently handled this time.
Yeah, probably. I mean, your point's well taken that pace was really fast last time, and they went closer to it than maybe they had to. Maybe it's enough of an excuse, Dan. I could certainly look at him that way. He's the kind of horse, though, I'll wait and see what kind of price he is, too, because to me, he's one of those horses, when you just start taking apart his form on paper, you just see all these good races that he ran in. But remember that 3-year-old crop a couple of years ago that he was beating? They weren't real good horses. That Canadian International last year, that wasn't a real good field either. He's got the figures, he's got the credentials. I still wonder how good he is.
I do think cutting back from 11 to 9.5 might work in his favor. Farbridge is next. This is a horse that did some good work as a 3-year-old. He won the Belmont Derby. Program training, he made that horse work a little bit in the Saratoga Derby. Back with Christophe Clement last time out against Program Trading. It wasn't a great performance, Mike, but you know something? I just am not sure this trip was exactly the most comfortable for him.
Yeah, that's how I looked at the race, too. I mean, it's fair to wonder if he's even good enough to go with a field like this one, and we'll see what happens in that regard, but I don't like the trip that he got at all in the Turf Classic. Didn't break well from the gate, shuffled back around the final turn, then had to come through between. I thought he actually ran on decently in that race, and I really liked his comeback race back in the Clement. I know it was only an allowance race, but off to a stumbling start there. Really nice run through the stretch to get the job done there. I think he can move forward at a price.
Measured Time won his first 3 starts on turf for Appleby. His final 2 over the winner in Dubai. They ran him in a Group 1 Dubai turf on Dubai World Cup evening last time out. I thought William Buick gave him a beautiful trip. He was able to just save ground in the pocket at the half-mile pole. He got to the outside. It looked like he was really going to fire an upper stretch, and those horses might have been just a little bit too good for him at that point in time. 3 of those horses have come back to place in Group 1s. The 14th place finisher actually won a Group 1.
Yeah, all of his races are good prior to that last one, and I feel like it's just one of those races that you don't want to be too hard on him for. That was an all-star field. He was right there in the mix. He wasn't quite good enough. He's still really lightly raced. Huge pedigree for these connections here. He's a dangerous horse in this race. We'll see what kind of price you can get.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Manhattan. Mike, I think you're going with the European entrant. Might be a good price.
Yeah, I'm going to take El Rifa in here. I think this is a great spot for this horse. I like that he comes over after a prep race against a really good field. I think he fits with these horses.
I had trouble separating my top 3 contenders in this race. Program Training, Al Rifa, Measured Time. I went with Measured Time in here. I think he still has a little bit of upside. This is only his 8th lifetime start, and it's just tough to go against Appleby in any of these major stakes races. The Manhattan, always a very competitive race. This year, we're running it at the beautiful Spa, the race before the Belmont. Good luck.